Hey everybody, it's hwsteele, and today is January 26, 2020, and in this video, I'm going to talk to you about Gann's 1929 annual stock forecast, more specifically about projected curve number 1, which is what he was anticipating the Dow Jones Industrial Average would follow. And this forecast of his was released in late 1928, so all of this information was produced and made public for those willing to pay for it at that time before 1929 even started. So that's to be kept in mind. Now the idea is now that if you're really a Gann guru type, that you should be able to produce a high-low forecast like this for the market that you're interested in or you trade or whatever. And the reason being because Gann did that in his forecast, so if Gann did it, then you should be able to do it too if you're someone who knows about Gann, right? Makes sense. So the first thing I want to do in this video is set some parameters, some rules to judge the accuracy of this forecast to see if it's something that we should even be emulating in the first place, because let's be honest, it's pretty cool to look at this and say, ooh, look at this forecast that Gann made, but if we actually look at the historical price data and then the forecast and find out that the forecast was garbage, then, well, obviously it's not something we want to be doing. But if we do look at the forecast, look at the historic price data, and find out that the forecast was something that was pretty impressive, then maybe it is something we want to be emulating, right? So that's what I'm going to be doing in this video. And the idea is that when I'm done with all of these videos, there's going to be a few of them, I don't know, 3 or 4 of them probably in total. The idea is if we find that these forecasts are worth emulating or repeating or producing ourselves, that by the time you're done watching these videos, those of you who are willing to put a little bit of effort in should be able to reproduce some forecasts that look just like this and are probably just as accurate. So no guarantees, because there are no guarantees that you're going to do what needs to be done properly, but let's see if that can happen. But like I said, we need to look at it first to find out if it's even worth doing. So that's what I'm going to be spending this video doing. So these forecasts nowadays are referred to as high-low forecasts. And the reason for that is Gann gave a bunch of dates that he was expecting changes in trend, and he marked on those dates whether or not it was going to be a high or a low with these stick figure forecasts, as they're sometimes referred to. Gann obviously is referring to it as a curve right here. He's keeping more mathematically oriented, as he tends to do. So let's go ahead and look at this. Now, the very first date is January 2nd, and he's expecting it to be a high. So let me pull up price chart here. This is 1929, the price data, and this is the pro real-time data. You can get a free account from them and get this data all the way back to late 1928. Now, it doesn't go back further than 1928, and the reason for that is because in 1928, the Dow Jones changed from 20 stocks to 30 stocks. So this data is the current version, well, it's the current number of stocks in the Dow Jones Industrial Average, meaning today there are 30 stocks in the Dow Jones Industrial Average, and in late 1928 is when that started. So that's why the data goes back to that point and not before it. Now we also need to set up some rules to judge the success of this forecast by. So basically what we're looking for is there to be a pivot really close to the dates that are given, and we're looking for it to be the correct polarity. In other words, is it a high or is it a low? Now, we're going to go ahead, and the common rule of thumb is that you give 1 to 2 days leeway on each side. So for instance, this first date is January 2nd. So in theory, we could start all the way. This top could land on December 31st, or it could land on January 1st, January 2nd, January 3rd, or January 4th. Now, obviously, the closer to the date given, the better. But we do want to give it a day to 2 days leeway. Also, if it lands on a weekend, if the date lands on a weekend, then we are going to go ahead and allow a trading day slippage. And what that means is, for instance, if it lands on a Sunday, that we will allow it to be a Monday or Tuesday or the Thursday or Friday before that. So, but I will say that there are no Sunday dates in this curve. Gann didn't put any Sundays in here unless there was a specific range that covered a Sunday. But the actual Sunday dates never showed up. And the market did trade on Saturdays in 1929. There was a half day essentially on Saturdays back then. And the data from Pro Real Time does not encompass that. There's no Saturdays given here, unfortunately. So this isn't going to be an exactly 100% precise test of this particular curve, but it will give us a closer approximation of what actually happens today in the markets, because we do have a 5-day trading week and we're off on, of course, Saturday and Sunday. So to quickly recap, our highs need to be higher than the next low, and our lows need to be lower than the next high. And the dates have to be within a couple days on either side for it to be considered a good forecast point. So anyway, let's go ahead and start on January 2nd. So let's see here. January 2nd to 5 to 7. So we have January 2nd is the top, and then 5 to 7 is the low. And we have an acceptable low here on Monday. Then we have a high on the 12th and a low on the 19th. This is all January. High on the 12th, which is right here. It's 12th is a Saturday, so we'll put it right here on the Friday. And then the 19th is the next low, which we have Friday's the closest day, and the low on Friday is lower than the high over here, so far so good. So then we have a high on the 24th and a low on the 30th. So a high on the 24th right here, and a low on the 30th right here. Then we have a high on the 4th and a low on the 8th. There's the 4th. And a low on the 8th, which is right here. Pretty decent. Then we have a high on the 13th or 14th and a low on the 28th. So 13, 14, 28. There's the 13th and a low on the 28th, which is right here. So this low on the 28th is in fact lower than the high over here, so we'll call that good. It's not pretty by any means, but it's definitely technically a lower point in price. And we might say actually that it was the 26th that was the low right there. But we're going to go ahead and keep it as accurate as these days can be kept to, the actual dates itself. All right, so what was our last date here? Was the 28th. A high on the 4th or 5th and a low on the 14th or 15th. 4th or 5th. So here is the 4th. Looks good. And then the 14th and 15th. Here's the 14th. So that looks good right there. And again, we have a situation right here where the low probably came in a day or two early, but this is technically lower, so we're going to keep it right there. And then a high on the 20th and a low 28.29. So 20th right here, and then 28.29 right here. We have the 28th and 29th. Either one of these will work because they're lower than this right here, so we'll keep it the 28th right here since that's one of the dates given in the little range. Then April 3rd and 12th to 13th. So April 3rd right here, that works. And then the 12th to 13th. There's 12 and there's 15, so we're going to use the actual date that's within the range. And again, we're probably a little bit off here, a day or two, but the low is lower than the high here, so we're going to technically consider it the actual day of. Let's see, so this was the 12th. April, where are you? 12th to 13th, and we have the 22nd and the 27th of April. So we have the 22nd, which is right here. And then what was it? The 27th. '26, 29. So 26 is closer, so we'll just go with that. It works, right? And then, see, 26, 27, we have May 4 and May 9 and 10. May 3 is closer, that works. And then May 9 and 10 for a low. The 9th looks best. So we have a high for 16 and a low for 20 in May. So we have a high 15, 16, and a low for 20, which is right here. So that works. So then we have a high from the 20th of May. We have the low of the 20th of May, and we have a high of May 29 to June 1st. So there's a low May 29 to June 1st. So we have really what we have right here looks like an inversion. I mean, this point right here, I mean, we could say, like, for instance, this was the 20th, and that was the actual day of. So if we move the 20th down to the 22nd right here, fudge that by 2 days, in other words, and we can put this date right here, and it's going to be just within acceptability. So I'm going to make this line thicker because I've got 2 days off right there. In other words, it's really not pretty. We're having to fudge on both sides right there, but it's technically just barely within parameters that we've set. So, all right, so back to it right here. Let's see, the May 29, June 1st was supposed to be a high. We managed to figure out how to make it a high. And then, let's see, a low for June 11 and a high for June 17. So June 11 is a low, and that just barely qualifies right there. I mean, that's by the skin of the teeth right there. It's just ever so slightly lower in price, but it's the day of, so we'll go ahead and give it. And then what was it, the 17th, I think? June, where are you? Yeah, the high on the 17th. Then the low on the 22, 24. So high on the 17th. right here, and the low on 22 to 24. So we'll say it was this Friday right there. And I'm going to go ahead and make this one a little bit thicker too, because that's a little bit, I mean, that's just iffy in my book. Okay, so we have the 22 to 24. Now we have July 3, and then July 9, 10. High July 3. Right here. And then a low of July 10th. Right there. So that falls within parameters. Then July 20th and high July 20th and the 22nd. So we have high, '20th is a Saturday, so the 19th right there, we'll call that the high, and then the 22nd is the low, and that's right there, so that works. Then a high, August 7th and 8th. So let's see. 6th, 7th, and the 8th. So that actually looks pretty good right there. And then a low on the 16th and 17th. Let's see. So I have a low right here on the 15th. There's just ever so lower right there. So that's another one that's not exactly pretty right there. We had a fudge by 1 day, which isn't really that big a deal. And then we just barely went lower in price, but still within our parameters, right? Okay, so August 23 to 24 is a high. '23, so we'll call it the 23rd right there. And then the 29th and 30th is a low. September 3rd is a high. So let's see. 29th right there, that works. And then September 3rd is a high, which of course is the classic day of the highest point in the Dow Jones Industrial Average in 1929. It was the high of the whole bull run up, and of course of the year also. Now we have a low on September 16, 17. September 13th, 16th right there. That's lower. Then we have a high on September 21st and a low 27, 28. So September 21st. So we fudged by day there. 2 days. Let's see. What was it? September 21st was the high. Okay. And that is September 20th right there. So it's a day off, but it still works. And then there was the 27th and 28th for a low. 27, 28. So 27 right there is the low, although we're probably off by a couple of days, but that's definitely lower. So let's see how that works. October 2nd is a high. So October 2nd is definitely higher right there. Then October 8th and 9th is lower. So we have low to the 9th right there. Let's see. Then a high on the 18th and 19th and the low on the 28th. So a high for the 18th and 19th. 18th right there, and a low on the 28th. So the actual low was the 29th, so we're going to go ahead and give it that, because that's clearly the low right there, right? All right, so then we have a high in November 2 through 4. There we go. So the closest right here, November 4th. That's good. And then a low on the 11th and 12th. There's the 11th, there's the 12th. So we'll go ahead and put it there, even though technically, you know, the 13th looks good. But the 12th will probably work out quite nicely and stay within our parameters quite easily. Then November 18 and 19 is a high. So our highest point right there is on the 19th. And then a low on November 23 and 25. So a low 23, 25. All right, so we have a low here in the 26th, and this was the 19th, which was acceptable because it was within the range right there, but then this does not work right there, so we're going to have to move this to the 20th to get it to actually work properly. So this is another one that I'm going to make thicker, where we are still within parameters right there, but it could definitely be confusing, right? So we had to fudge that several different ways to get it to work, in other words. Okay, so let's see. The low was November 23 through 25, then a high on December 2nd. And December 2nd is right there. And then a low on December 23 and 24. So there's 23 right there. So we definitely went lower, unquestionably. So that's technically within the realm of acceptability. But there was clearly way more up movement there. So that's another, it's still technically correct, but we're going to go ahead and mark it a little bit thicker as kind of a definitely wasted movement there. So then we have a high for December 28th and a low for the 31st. High for the 28th, which the 27th is the closest, and then a low for the 31st, which is, that's the 30th, 31st is right there, so that works too. Okay, so there we have, and if you've never counted this, there's 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, 14, 16, 18, 20, 22, 24, 26, 28, 30, 32, 34, 36, 38, 40, 42, 44, 46, 48, 50. There are 50 points given in this projected curve for the Dow Jones Industrial Average. So there's 50 dates given. Actually, quite a few of these have date ranges, but for all intents and purposes, there's 50 dates given, and they all work if you there's a fudge factor, there's a significant fudge factor on a few of these. There's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 of them approximately, where it wasn't just one date had to be changed, that there was more going on. We basically had to change dates, still within the parameters of the 2 days either side, but it was a total of probably like 3 or 4 days in some of these right here. So in other words, there could be some definite confusion right there. So anyway, point is, if we look at this historically, the fact that this forecast came out in 1928 and then did this well, calling the market seems pretty remarkable, doesn't it? I mean, it seems pretty impressive. And that's definitely something that I know of a lot of people who are really trying to get to the point where they can make forecasts, high-low type forecasts, or curves, as Gann called them, at least in 1929. And because they believe that it's definitely going to help them in their trading. And it looks like it has the potential to do some good, doesn't it? It really does. But here's the thing. In the next video that I do about this, I'm going to go over some mathematics with you. And I'm going to show you, because let's be honest, Gann said that mathematics is the only science that's agreed upon by everybody, basically. It's a universal language, right? Everyone knows 1 + 1 = 2. Well, unless it's -1 plus +1, but that's a different story. You know what I mean. Mathematics stays constant. So in the next video on this subject, I'm going to go over some mathematics about this, and then we're going to do something that's really, really interesting and probably going to be really, really eye-opening for you. But that's in the next video. Now keep in mind that that's not going to be the next video that I do. This subject is going to be a lot like the law of vibration videos I'm doing, where I just kind of do 1 or 2 a month. So anyway, to quickly recap, we've discovered that this forecast that Gann made ahead of time, these individual turns right here seem to be, for the most part, pretty good when we used a certain range of parameters, which was to give up to 2 days before and after the actual dates given here to allow weekends to slide if we need to, and to expect that the highs that are marked on this forecast are going to be higher than the lows that are marked on this forecast, the contiguous highs and lows, so to speak. So everything worked out pretty well. There was 5 points on here where it really looked kind of iffy, but it still worked within our parameters given. So everything looks like it's something that would definitely be beneficial to be able to accomplish something along this lines yourself, right? So anyway, this video, wow, it's already 27.5 minutes, so I'm going to go ahead and end it now. And sometime next month, or hopefully early next month, I'll get around to doing the next video where I show you some very interesting mathematics, and then we use those mathematics to our benefit. So until next time, this is hwsteele, and I'll talk to you later.